And we're back. Oh, what a week. Sorry about my prediction, but I was really just trying to help myself get ready and my friends get ready because it's not the election that counts. It's what we do with each other that counts. And we'll get through this. A lot of the people that were very upset, it's because they were surprised. It's because we weren't really paying attention. So what I really need to talk about now is what's our next step. Because what's my next step is what I mean. We've got to not depend on the government. We've got to realize that our real power comes from our personal relationships, our personal humanity, our way of connecting with each other that's beyond any policies. And that's what I was saying before. So let's not throw up our hands. Let's don't give up. It's not over. You know, a lot of the registered Democrats didn't even vote this time. So there was a lot of apathy. So we can't be apathetic about this. You know, we've got to realize that the ball game is still being played, and it is like a big game. It's a very sophisticated game, but the bottom line is we have to relate to it as participants and not observers. We have to govern ourselves, and we have to be willing to take a hard look at a lot of the denials in our own consciousness. Because, like I said in the other video, if we're living in fear, our fear is going to create our reality. So if we just kind of throw our hands up and give up and say, oh, I'm not going to bother with this anymore, then there'll be someone in the power scheme of things that will take advantage of that. And we can't allow that to happen. We can't allow this kind of threat to get a foothold, especially now that they see we're vulnerable. I mean, there's a reason that it seemed like there was this huge wave of voters going in a direction that we didn't expect. And that's because a lot of the voters were simply going by what they had already made up their mind 4 years ago. You know, it's like we have to stay aware, we have to stay educated, we have to remember that nothing's going to happen unless we get involved and keep the ball rolling. We, the people, still have the power. After all, the people that we put into these positions of government, it's the collective consciousness that put them there in the first place. So if we try and say, oh, well, all the people that voted for this particular person don't know what they're doing, well, it's really us that don't know what they're doing. We're not connecting with each other. We're not letting each other know how important it is to take the government into our own hands. And I'm not talking anarchy here. I'm talking being aware of your personal power. And that comes from how well you can communicate with your neighbor, you know, the people right next to you. There's been a huge gathering already to call on a march, you know, for the inauguration. They want to get thousands of people up there to show that we haven't given up, you know, that we're still in the game. So I highly recommend getting involved in that and getting involved in any kind of community effort, getting involved in just talking to people, not just like-minded people, but continuing the dialogue, continuing to express your true feelings around all this. One thing I want to talk about is just on the safety side of things. And this may sound like kind of out there, but there is a real movement to change the economy in terms of the kind of currency that we're using. It's a very real phenomenon that wealth these days is perceived as material wealth, not wealth of consciousness, not wealth of spirit, not wealth of the heart, but that's interpreted as power in currency. And there's a huge movement now to transfer paper currencies around the world into digital currency. And you can take it or leave it, but it is happening. and I don't suggest leaving it. The idea behind it is that if they can transfer all the personal access to money into digital money, in other words, it's pretty much just online. It's not something you can hold in your hand. It's not paper money. It's not coins. It's not any of that. Then you can be pretty well controlled by the government, or the world banks, which is the government, or the so-called elite, which is the government and the banks working together in this scheme. And it is a real scheme. So I strongly suggest educating yourself about this, and just be prepared, just like we weren't prepared for this. By the way, when they did a survey and they were asking some voters, if they were concerned about so-and-so being an authoritarian, and a lot of the responses were, well, what's an authoritarian? They don't even know, what they're voting for. So they're voting for, the big thing was, I want a better paycheck. I want a paycheck like I had, before the pandemic. And so the pandemic ruined everybody's paychecks and ruined everybody's work, and that's what people are so bitter about, especially the middle class. And so there's this movement now to further eliminate the power of the middle class by taking away paper currency. It's real, I'm telling you. So that's just an aside. Like I said, there's lots of other issues, including education and all things that are being threatened. But if you're concerned about the economy and buying the eggs and the bread at the store, then be concerned about the form that the currencies are going to be taking. So I'm going to continue these little blogs, and to me it's a form of dialogue, and I, of course, would like to talk to anyone that wants to speak face-to-face. But this is just taking advantage of the technology that we have in order to continue to expand our awareness about what's really going on. So, again, the most important thing about all of this is to really, all of us, pay attention to our feelings around it, and not just stay in our sort of intellectual discourses and opinions, and all the different policies are not going to change, I'm telling you. But what can change is our acknowledgement of what we share in common. Yes, I'm afraid. Oh, you're afraid too. Okay, so what can we do? How can we work together? How can we work together to come up with some peaceful solutions? And that is what's called coming from your heart, as you know, as opposed to just coming from your head. So bless you, and we'll speak again soon.